I got the dirt. Someone axed Kirk for their sick game. I know who ordered Kirk's hit. Someone's hiding, scared.
They say where there's smoke, there's fire. But tonight, all we have is smoke, questions, and one very uneasy feeling. Out of nowhere, the internet lit up with claims that Joe Rogan secretly sat down in his studio, hit record, and dropped a private, no sponsor, no guest episode where he allegedly laid out a timeline that made one widow's story look very, very strange. We're not saying this really happened, and we're definitely not saying anyone is guilty of anything. But the way fans are talking about this hidden podcast has the whole situation feeling like a twisted crossover between a crime thriller and a political reality show. According to the online chatter, this wasn't Joe joking about elk meat or aliens. This was quiet, focused, almost icy. People swear he went step by step through dates, trips, money, and behavior, and by the end of it, they say one thing stood out more than anything else. Something about the official story just didn't sit right. Is it all exaggeration, a wild narrative that got out of control? Or is there a reason so many people suddenly feel that something is off? Tonight, we're breaking down exactly what people are saying and why this secret episode has everyone on edge. From the moment the whispers started, nothing felt normal anymore. One random comment under a clip turned into a thread. That thread turned into a screenshot, and
Kirk's out here pretending she's some truth teller. Nah, man, she's full of straight up. But it infuriated people because they felt like this guy is going against the progress that was being made in society. But what he did not feel like was progress. Like it was a progressive agenda that was being pushed in most college campuses. It's a leftist, Marxist sort of agenda. He didn't feel like that was the correct way to live, and he felt like he had arguments against it, and he wanted, and it was, it's a business too, right? Like He developed this big social media.
Before anyone could blink, people were claiming there was a secret, unlisted podcast episode that never hit the usual platforms. No promo, no sponsor reads, no guest. Just Joe in that familiar studio, leaning toward the mic with that slow, careful tone he uses when something is really bothering him. According to the people who swear they heard it live before it vanished, he didn't just ramble or throw out jokes. He walked through one widow's story like he was examining a crime novel that didn't quite add up. And again, just so we're clear, we're not saying this episode officially exists or that anything in those online claims is proven. We're talking about what people are saying, the theories, the speculation, and the way fans have reacted to it. The way the story goes, it all started when a tiny channel clipped a few seconds of Joe talking about a case that keeps me up at night. In that small, grainy clip, he allegedly mentioned a powerful man who passed away suddenly and the woman left behind who stepped into his spotlight. There were no names, no dates, no direct accusations, but the internet doesn't need much to start connecting dots. Fans slowed the clip down, zoomed in, dissected every pause, every sigh, every time he rubbed his forehead like he was holding back more than he could say. One comment read, "You can hear it in his voice. Something feels off."
Platform because of it. And I don't, like I said, I don't agree. I don't think some of the things he said, he should have said. But the fact that people were cheering when normal people, housewives, moms, like people working at banks, people working at various industries, celebrating a man getting in front of his kids, in the front of the whole world.
That's evil.
What the f- is wrong with us?
Off about the way he's telling this. Another wrote, "If he's talking about who I think he's talking about, this is insane." Within hours, those what if comments became full-blown, he has to be talking about her threads. From there, the timeline people started doing what they always do. You know the type. They sit with a notebook, 6 open tabs, and way too much patience. They began stitching together public clips, old interviews, and photos from events to prove their point. They claimed Joe's vague description of a sudden passing, a fast funeral, and a widow stepping into a leadership role matched a very specific situation everyone online already had opinions about. Screens filled with side-by-side images. On one side, the couple smiling at events, projecting the perfect power duo energy. On the other, the widow alone on stage after his passing, dressed in black, speaking calmly about legacy and moving forward. People started replaying those old speeches with a new filter, asking, was she grieving or was she already planning her next move? What made the whole thing explode was not just the idea of the secret episode, it was the emotional reaction it triggered. Fans who had admired this couple for years felt like someone had taken their trust and held it under a harsh light. Some viewers were furious that Joe would even hint at something like this, saying, how dare he feed conspiracy culture when a family is grieving? Others defended him, saying, he's not accusing anyone, he's just asking questions like he always does. The comment sections on random clips turned into full-scale debates about loyalty, grief, power, and whether anyone has the right to speculate about what happens behind closed doors. And remember, through all of this, there was still no public confirmation that this so-called secret episode was ever officially uploaded. All we really had were people insisting they saw it, people insisting they didn't, and a whole lot of tension in the middle. The family angle made everything messier. Distant relatives, old friends, even people who only met the couple once at a fundraiser started giving anonymous quotes to small blogs. One cousin claimed, we always felt like something was off, but we never said anything out of respect. A former colleague allegedly said, he tried to warn us that he didn't feel safe, but we thought it was just stress. Again, none of this has been proven, and it's important to keep saying that. These are claims, not verified facts. But in the emotional world of online fandom, nuance often gets drowned out. Viewers who already felt uneasy after the man's passing now felt like they'd been handed permission to voice every doubt they kept quiet about at the time. I knew it became a common phrase. I knew that speech didn't sound like someone who just lost the love of her life. Then came the supposed details of what Joe allegedly talked about in that mysterious recording. People say he didn't call the widow a villain, didn't use angry language. Instead, he walked through a sequence of events in that calm, analytical way that makes everything feel heavier. According to these online retellings, he mentioned a trip that was officially described as work-related, but privately rumored to be a getaway with someone else. He brought up a fund that was supposed to support staff and causes they both cared about, but quietly shifted under different control not long before the tragedy. The way fans tell it, he kept circling back to one thing: timing. The timing of the passing, the timing of the transitions, the timing of the widow stepping into new roles with a level of composure that some viewers saw as inspiring and others saw as cold. In one fan's recount of the alleged episode, they claimed Joe said something like, "I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I'm just saying if you lay the timeline out on a table, it makes you tilt your head a little." That one paraphrased line spread like wildfire. People repeated it as if it were a quote carved in stone, even though no official recording existed for anyone to fact-check. Memes popped up with the phrase, "tilt your head a little," written over photos of red string conspiracy boards. Reaction channels uploaded full breakdowns of a podcast episode they themselves had never heard, only heard about. And every time someone asked, "Wait, where is this episode?" the answer was always the same. It was live for a moment, it got pulled, someone out there has it saved. What really intensified the emotional conflict was the way fans split into two camps over the widow themselves. On one side, people defended her fiercely, reminding everyone that grief looks different on every person. They said things like, maybe she looks composed because she has to hold everything together for the kids and the organization, and you don't know how you would act if your whole world fell apart on live cameras. On the other side, critics pointed to every polished appearance, every expensive outfit, every perfectly delivered speech and said, "This doesn't look like someone who's barely holding on. This looks like who's already moved on." One comment that went viral read, "The tears dried too fast, and the brand deals showed up too soon." Whether fair or not, that line summed up a feeling a lot of people had, but were too scared to say out loud. As the story grew, even people who had never cared about this couple found themselves sucked into the drama. It became less about who was right and more about what the situation represented. To some, it was a symbol of how power can twist grief into a public performance. To others, it was proof that online audiences have become too comfortable turning real tragedy into entertainment. Fans who once united around supporting the family now argued over comment threads and live stream chats. Moderators of fan pages had to start deleting entire discussions because they were turning into full-blown wars. Phrases like "emotions ran high" and "the community is divided" didn't even begin to cover it. It felt like everyone who had ever watched this couple smile on stage now needed to pick a side. Meanwhile, the widow herself stayed quiet, at least publicly. No response to the rumors about the secret podcast, no direct comment about Joe's alleged breakdown of her life, no interviews addressing the questions that kept piling up. Her social media pages remained carefully curated, full of motivational captions, charity highlights, and gentle reminders to honor his legacy. For some, that silence was dignified. For others, it was infuriating. One fan wrote, "If someone was spreading wild stories about me after my partner died, I'd be on every camera shutting it down. Her silence feels like a choice." Another replied, "Or maybe her silence is the only way she can survive all of this." Slowly, the argument shifted from "did she do something" to "why won't she say anything?" And that shift made the entire thing even more unsettling. Through all of this, one thing stayed constant. Nobody could agree on what Joe actually meant, or if he meant anything at all. Maybe he really did sit down one night, hit record, and pour out his unease about a story that never sat right with him. Maybe what we're seeing is a massive game of telephone, where a few vague lines grew into a full-blown narrative simply because people needed something dramatic to latch onto. What we do know is simple. Fans are talking. Theories are multiplying, and a quiet, unconfirmed story about a possible secret episode has turned one widow's carefully protected image into the center of an emotional storm that just won't die down. If part one of this saga was all about the whispers, this next wave was about the people who decided whispers weren't enough anymore. Somewhere between fan theories and outright chaos, a new kind of voice stepped into the picture: the commentators. Not official investigators, not family, not spokespeople, just loud, confident personalities who knew how to turn a complicated situation into a storyline people couldn't stop watching. One mid-sized channel went viral overnight after posting a video titled something along the lines of, "Did Joe just hint at something darker?" From the first frame, the host made it clear they were dealing in speculation and commentary, not certified truth. Still, the way they laid everything out made viewers lean in closer. They played the tiny clip everyone had already seen, then slowed it down even more, pointing out every shift in Joe's expression, every pause before he chose his words. "Listen to that," the host said, voice low. "That's not the tone of someone just telling a random story. That's the sound of a guy who has seen too much and is trying not to say the wrong thing." Fans flooded the chat, typing so fast the comments became a blur. Some people begged the host to stop, saying the man's family had gone through enough already. Others encouraged them to keep going, convinced they were finally finding some kind of pattern in the confusion. "We're not accusing anyone," the host repeated. "We're just asking why so many details make online viewers uneasy." Even with that reminder, emotions stayed tense. People who adored the widow felt like she was being dragged through the mud. People who already had doubts felt like they were finally hearing someone say what they were too scared to put into words. Once that video hit a few million views, other creators smelled a story they didn't want to miss. Reaction channels, gossip commentators, and even former co-workers from the media world started adding their own takes. Some leaned hard into the drama, using phrases like "fans are shocked" and "the family is left divided" to keep viewers glued to the screen. Others tried to sound balanced, reminding everyone that grief is complicated and public narratives rarely capture the full picture. Still, no matter how careful they tried to be, the end result was the same. The widow's name became a magnet for opinions, assumptions, and heated debates. Behind the scenes, people close to the couple reportedly started feeling the impact. An old friend allegedly messaged a small page and said, "We used to be able to remember him in peace. Now, every memory comes with someone asking if we think there's more to the story. There were claims that some relatives stopped reading comments altogether because the speculation was too painful. A few anonymous family sources supposedly pushed back, saying, "She lost her husband, and now she's losing her privacy too. How is any of this fair?" But even those emotional defenses weren't enough to slow the wave of content rolling across feeds every hour. One clip that really stirred things up featured a commentator reading out a message from a viewer who claimed to have worked at an event where the couple appeared shortly before everything changed. According to that anonymous fan, the energy between them felt strange. They described quick glances, tight smiles, and a moment backstage where the widow allegedly snapped, "Stop making promises you can't keep." Was that a real memory or a dramatized retelling shaped by hindsight and the internet's hunger for tension? Nobody could say for sure. Still, once that story was out there, it became another thread people could tug on whenever they wanted to argue their side. The more these kinds of stories spread, the more the widow's public image split into two completely different versions. In one version, she was a strong partner, carrying the weight of a mission, trying to keep everything from collapsing. In the other version, she was presented as a calculated figure, always poised, always a step ahead, with eyes that looked just a little too dry for some viewers' comfort. Neither image was completely fair, and neither told the whole truth, but both lived loudly in the minds of people who watched this drama unfold from their phones. Then came the night a bigger podcast host brought it up in a casual conversation. It wasn't a full episode, not a deep dive, just a passing mention during an unrelated discussion. But that brief moment hit like a spark in a room full of gasoline. Sitting back in his chair, he said something like, "You ever notice how sometimes the official story and the way people act don't totally line up? I'm not saying anything specific, but when a big voice says they're unsettled by a situation, I pay attention." He didn't name anyone, he didn't point directly at the widow, but everyone watching knew exactly which situation fans were linking to that remark. Within minutes, clips of that tiny segment were cut, captioned, and shared everywhere. The captions did most of the heavy lifting, pairing his vague comment with photos of the widow or screenshots of headlines about the secret episode rumors. "See," people wrote, "even he feels like something is weird." Once again, a line that could have been about any number of things became ammunition in a story people were desperate to keep alive. As this was happening, some fans tried to pull things back to reality. They reminded others that no official report had concluded anything suspicious. No authorities had come forward with explosive findings. In their view, what was happening was less a search for real answers and more a collective attempt to cope with the discomfort that comes when a public figure leaves suddenly and the world wants someone to blame. One thoughtful comment read, "Maybe the reason everyone is stuck on this is because it's easier to believe there's a missing piece than to accept that sometimes life is just cruel and senseless." Even that attempt at a calm perspective sparked arguments. People who agreed with it said the internet needed to stop turning real loss into entertainment. People who disagreed fired back with posts like, "Asking questions is not disrespect, it's common sense." The divide kept growing, not just between supporters and critics of the widow, but between those who felt the story should be left alone and those who believed every uneasy feeling meant there had to be something more waiting to be discovered. As the noise grew louder, a smaller detail started to stand out. Some viewers noticed that the widow's media appearances slowed down noticeably. She still fulfilled key responsibilities, still showed up where she had to, but the candid posts, behind-the-scenes moments, and open reflections that once made her seem so approachable began to fade. Her captions became shorter, more polished, more careful. A simple message like, "We are focusing on healing and continuing his work," would appear beneath a photo, and that was it. No replies to comments, no live sessions, no open Q&A. For the people who already loved her, this looked like understandable self-protection. For the people who were suspicious, it looked like strategic distancing. Around this time, a rumor started that her team had held a closed-door meeting about the online narrative. According to someone who claimed to be close to a staff member, that meeting was tense. One side was supposedly urging her to address the speculation head-on, to sit down in front of a camera and walk through the timeline with as much transparency as possible. Another side was urging caution, warning that anything she said could be twisted, edited, or taken out of context by people who already made up their minds. "If we feed this," one advisor allegedly said, "it will never end." That's where the emotional stakes became almost unbearable for the people caught closest to the situation. Imagine being in a room where half the voices are telling you that staying silent makes you look guilty to strangers, while the other half are telling you that speaking up will give those strangers more material to dissect. Imagine carrying your own grief while every decision you make is judged by people who have never met you, but feel like they own a piece of your story. This is the pressure people meant when they said emotions were running high, not just online, but in living rooms, offices, and late-night phone calls among those who actually knew the couple. Among fans, the more they learned about these clashes behind closed doors, the more dug in they became on their own positions. Some argued that if she really had nothing to hide, she would sit down and go through everything calmly. Others countered that nobody owes the internet a detailed explanation of the worst days of their life. The conversations moved from gossip into bigger questions about privacy, power, and how much access audiences think they deserve to the personal lives of public figures. Through all the noise, one thing stayed painfully clear. This wasn't just a story about a rumored podcast anymore. It had turned into something much larger, something messy and human. It had become a mirror that reflected people's fears about betrayal, their frustration with institutions they no longer trusted, and their craving for a simple answer to a complicated loss. Whether they believed the suspicions or rejected them entirely, almost everyone watching felt some kind of discomfort they couldn't quite shake. And that lingering, uneasy feeling is what kept the conversations going long after the supposed secret recording faded from view. What nobody expected was that the tension would eventually spill over, not just between fans and the widow, but between the commentators themselves. It started small, with subtle jabs buried in long videos. A host would say, "Some people are pushing this way too far," and everyone knew exactly which channels they meant. Another creator would roll their eyes and mutter, "I'm not here for clout, I'm here for the truth," even though they were clearly reacting to someone else's numbers. Suddenly, it wasn't just a story about a widow and a rumored secret recording. It was about whose version of the story people believed, whose breakdown felt the most convincing, and whose emotions felt the most real on camera. One night, a medium-sized commentator went live and decided to lean fully into the drama. They pulled up a grid of thumbnails from other channels covering the situation and said, "Look at this, they're turning it into a soap opera." The chat exploded. Some viewers laughed, enjoying the shade. Others accused the host of hypocrisy, pointing out that they too had used emotional titles and somber music. "You're all doing the same thing," one viewer typed. "You just don't like that other people are doing it better." The host paused, reading that comment aloud, then sighed. "Maybe," they admitted, "but someone has to remind everyone that there's a real family in the middle of this." Meanwhile, smaller channels tried to carve out their own space by focusing on the emotional side of the story. Instead of timelines and alleged clues, they talked about what it means to watch someone move from partner to public symbol overnight. One creator described watching the widow's first big speech after the tragedy and said, "You can see it in her eyes. She's trying to be strong, but there's a distance there too." Another replied in their own video, "Or maybe that distance is just shock. Maybe we're all reading too much into a face that's just trying not to fall apart on stage." These softer takes resonated with viewers who felt exhausted by the constant suspicion, but they also drew pushback from those who believed any softness was just enabling a carefully crafted image. In the background, the story of the alleged secret recording kept shifting with each retelling. One viewer swore they heard Joe read out a nearly hour-by-hour breakdown of the final day. Another insisted he never got that specific, only talking in broad strokes and focusing more on how uneasy the overall situation made him feel. Each person who claimed to have heard it described the tone a little differently. Some said he sounded heartbroken. Others said he sounded quietly furious. A few even suggested the whole thing might not have been a full episode at all, but a test recording, a discarded draft never meant to be public. The uncertainty around those details gave the whole thing a ghost-like quality, like a story you can almost touch but never fully hold. What made it worse was the way screenshots started to circulate with no clear source. Someone posted a blurred image of a supposed episode title featuring the widow's story hinted at in vague language. Another account leaked what they claimed was a partial transcript, full of lines that sounded almost too perfectly dramatic. "It feels like fan fiction," one skeptic commented, like someone wrote what they wish he had said, not what he actually did. Still, those alleged words were shared thousands of times, each repost stripping away another layer of doubt. Before long, some viewers quoted them as if they were confirmed, saying, "Remember when he said he couldn't sleep after learning what really happened?" even though no one could prove the sentence had ever left his mouth. As these fragments spread, the widow's world reportedly tightened even further. Insiders whispered that longtime friends were now divided, not just over what they believed, but over how to handle it. One person supposedly wanted her to sue anyone using her image alongside the more extreme theories, arguing that letting it slide would only make things worse. Another warned that legal action could backfire, making her look like someone trying to shut down uncomfortable questions. "If we hit back too hard, people will say we're scared," they allegedly said. "If we do nothing, they say we're hiding. There is no winning move here." In private, some staff members were said to be struggling with their own conflicted feelings. One anonymous message claimed that a team member broke down in a meeting, whispering, "I loved them both. I still do. I just wish the world would let us grieve without needing a villain." That line hit viewers hard when it made its way into a commentary video. For a moment, it pulled the focus away from speculation and back to something raw and human. But even that vulnerable confession was soon dissected. Some people saw it as proof that the family was being unfairly targeted. Others twisted it into a sign that there really was something painful being buried under the surface. All this time, fans continued to dig. They pulled up old footage where the couple joked about trust, loyalty, and what would happen if one of us goes first. Clips that once felt cute now played like foreshadowing in a tragic drama. One moment in particular started making the rounds again, a lighthearted interview where the man laughed and said something about never wanting his story turned into a spectacle. The widow smiled stiffly beside him in the old footage, nodding. "We'd keep it real," she said. Early on, people had found that moment sweet. Watching it now, with everything swirling around her, some viewers said the same line felt almost ironic. Then came the subtle shift that changed the tone of the conversation yet again. Instead of asking, "Did she do something?" more and more people started asking, "What are we doing?" The constant replays, the slow-motion breakdowns of facial expressions, the endless arguments about whether a tear looked genuine or rehearsed began to weigh on people's consciences. A popular commentary host took a step back on stream one night and admitted, "I got so caught up in the mystery that I forgot there are kids involved, staff involved, extended family involved." Maybe, just maybe, the audience's hunger for answers is becoming part of the problem. That moment of self-awareness didn't stop the story, but it did add a new strand to it. Now, every time someone dropped a video with a dramatic title, they got comments asking, "Are you helping or hurting?" Some creators doubled down, saying they were simply reflecting public concern. Others softened their tone, adding clearer reminders that they weren't accusing anyone of anything, only reacting to what was already being discussed. Yet even with those disclaimers, the emotional charge remained. People had already invested too much energy, too many late-night conversations, too many arguments with strangers to simply walk away. In the middle of all this, a quiet counter-movement started forming. They were fans who still cared deeply about the truth, but didn't want to join a pile-on. They began threading together posts focusing on the man's life, his work, the ways he'd helped people, the jokes he told that made crowds laugh. Their goal wasn't to erase the uncomfortable questions, but to remind everyone that there was more to his story than controversy. Some of these supporters openly said they didn't like the widow. Others said they adored her. But they all agreed on one thing. They didn't want his memory reduced to a non-stop feud over what might have happened behind closed doors. Even with that softer energy trying to push through, the unease never completely faded. Something about the timing, the silence, and the shifting narratives refused to let people settle. Maybe it was human nature, the part of us that hates loose ends. Maybe it was the way the internet can turn any tragedy into an ongoing series, with each new theory treated like an episode drop. Whatever the reason, the story held on, alive in comment sections, podcasts, and private group chats. And through it all, the widow remained at the center, without saying much at all. Her every public move interpreted, her every absence magnified. The more carefully she walked, the louder each footstep seemed to echo for those watching from the outside, still trying to decide whether they were witnessing a woman protecting her broken heart or a figure guarding a version of events that would never fully make sense to anyone beyond her inner circle. Then, just when people thought the story might finally start fading, a new moment pulled everything back into the spotlight. A date was announced for a big public tribute, a formal event meant to honor his work and legacy. It was billed as a night of remembrance, a chance for supporters, staff, and family to gather and share stories, to celebrate everything he built. On paper, it sounded simple and respectful. But the second the widow's name appeared as the final speaker on the program, the reaction split all over again. Some said she deserved that spot more than anyone else. Others felt their stomach twist, wondering how her every word would be received. The night of the event, clips started hitting timelines within minutes. Phones were up everywhere, capturing every angle. The widow walked onto the stage in a dark, elegant outfit, not overly dramatic, not casual either. She stood behind the podium, took a long breath, and let the room fall completely silent. Even through shaky fan footage, you could feel the weight in the air. This was the moment people had been waiting on for months, either to be moved or to be convinced they were right to be suspicious. The pressure on every syllable was intense. Her speech, at least on the surface, stayed focused on memory. She talked about his drive, his stubbornness, his way of laughing at his own jokes. She described late nights spent arguing over ideas and early mornings spent traveling city to city. At one point, her voice shook as she said, "Nothing about this has been easy." That line hit a lot of people in the chest. Even some of her harshest critics admitted in comments later that for a moment, seeing her voice tremble like that made them feel guilty for everything they had said. It reminded everyone that underneath titles and rumors, there had been a real relationship. But there were also parts of the speech that kept the questions alive. When she mentioned noise and speculation, some felt she was dismissing every concern as baseless drama. When she said, "We will not let confusion rewrite his story," supporters cheered, but critics felt pushed further away, like they were being labeled as enemies instead of people who were just struggling to reconcile the official narrative. With the online claims, one particular sentence where she described herself as guarding what matters most became a flashpoint. What did she mean by that? His legacy, the family, the truth? Depending on who you asked, the answer changed. After the event, reaction videos exploded again. One channel replayed her entire speech and paused every few seconds to analyze her expression. "Look at her eyes here," the host said softly. "Is that pain or is that anger?" Another commentator pushed back on that approach entirely, saying, "We're not lie detectors. We're just strangers watching a woman trying to stand upright under impossible pressure." Fans argued in the chat, some dropping crying emojis, others typing long paragraphs about body language, tone, and choice of words. The tribute, meant to quiet the storm, ended up feeding it in a different way, giving both sides fresh moments to cling to. One particularly emotional reaction came from a former staff member who decided to speak out in a long audio post. They didn't accuse anyone of anything, but they did say this: "The hardest part is waking up every day and seeing people treat his death like a puzzle they deserve to solve. We lived through it. We felt the ground vanish under our feet. And now we have to watch strangers decide which version of our pain fits their favorite theory." That confession made a lot of viewers pause. It didn't erase their doubts, but it reminded them that for the people inside that world, the constant online noise felt less like justice and more like an unending echo. Still, the theories didn't disappear. They just got more layered. Some viewers argued that the emotional staff comments and the widow's careful speeches actually proved there were things being carefully managed and controlled. Others insisted that what people were seeing was simply the natural result of any high-profile tragedy, where no explanation will ever feel satisfying enough. One fan wrote, "When someone that visible is suddenly gone, our brains refuse to accept it without a villain, so we go looking for one until someone fills the role." That observation lingered in many minds, even among those who still felt that certain details, certain silences, were too strange to ignore. A quieter, more personal twist came when a smaller creator shared screenshots of a direct message they received from someone claiming to be a close friend of the widow. According to those messages, she had seen some of the coverage, some of the theories, and it hurt more than anyone realized. "There are nights she doesn't sleep," the alleged friend wrote. "She replays every moment, every word, wondering what she could have done differently. And then she opens her phone and sees strangers acting like they know how her story should look." Once again, there was no way to verify the messages, but they added a human layer that struck people deeply. After that, a subtle shift began in the way some channels framed their content. More and more hosts opened their videos by saying clearly, "We are reacting to what is being discussed online. We don't know what really happened. We're not judges, juries, or investigators." This didn't completely calm the emotional waves, but it at least drew a line between commentary and certainty. It reminded viewers that no matter how compelling a narrative might sound, the truth behind closed doors isn't something a timeline video or a dramatic title can actually unlock. Over time, the story settled into a strange limbo. New clips still surfaced now and then, an old joke he told here, a photo of them smiling there, a short statement from a colleague calling for respect. Every once in a while, a fresh rumor about that supposed secret recording would flare up, then fade again when no solid proof appeared. Some fans admitted they weren't sure anymore what they believed, only that the whole situation left them with a heavy feeling they couldn't shake. It wasn't one specific detail, but the combination of grief, power, silence, and online obsession blending together into something that felt unstable. For the widow, at least from the outside, life seemed to narrow into two versions. In one, she appeared at carefully chosen events, spoke about causes and projects, and honored her late partner with practiced words that still carried traces of real emotion. In the other, she existed only as a name on a thumbnail, a face on a split screen, a topic in someone else's script. Every smile, every pause, every piece of jewelry, every trip, no matter how ordinary, became something people felt free to interpret. The line between the person she knew herself to be and the character the internet had created grew wider with each take, each upload. And that's really where this entire saga landed, at least for now. Not in a grand revelation, not in a dramatic confession or a final verdict, but in a strange, uneasy middle ground. Fans are left holding on to their feelings, their doubts, their empathy, and their frustration, all tangled together. Some still insist that something about the timeline and the reactions will never feel right. Others carry a quiet sadness that a family's loss became raw material for endless debate. And in the background, that rumored late-night recording, the one people claim changed everything, remains what it has always been in this story we're discussing today. A shadow people stare at, trying to decide if they're seeing the outline of something real or just the shape of their own need for answers in a world that rarely hands them out neatly. So where does that leave you in all of this? After everything people have said online about this supposed late-night recording, the strange timing, the careful speeches, and the divided reactions, one thing is clear: there are still more questions than answers. Was this all just the internet doing what it always does, turning grief into a story it can't stop retelling? Or did the combination of silence, power, and perfectly polished appearances create a feeling that something was just slightly out of place, even if nobody can prove exactly why? Remember, we are not saying this secret episode officially exists, and we're not claiming any of these theories are facts. We're walking through what fans are talking about, the emotions people are projecting, and the way one widow story has turned into a kind of mirror for everyone watching. Some see strength, some see something colder. Some see a woman trying to stand on broken ground while the entire world debates whether her pain looks real enough. Now it's your turn. What do you think when you hear all of this? Does the situation sound like people are connecting dots that were never meant to be connected? Or do you feel that nagging sense that certain details and silences will always feel off? Do you see a family hanging on under impossible pressure, or a carefully managed image guarding something you can't quite name? Tell me in the comments whose side you understand more and why. Do you think these online deep dives help push toward transparency, or are they just turning real loss into entertainment? If you made it this far, make sure you tap like so more people can join the conversation, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, and ring the bell so you're here when new twists and reactions drop. Your voice is part of the story now, so share your thoughts below and let's see where you stand.